idea of this week pre-COVID was that we would work together on ensembles, that duets, trios, and quartets, and work not only on the detail of the music, but work with a director on putting these things together and presenting a showcase at the end of the week dramatically on the stage at Clonter.
As the lockdown sort of started to progress, and we still weren't really sure what the rules were going to be, like what was going to be taking place, I think we all started, I know that I personally just started to accept that the work this year was probably going to be cancelled or postponed.
Yeah, we ended up with this online kind of world that, the Royal College have been giving to us as well. So it didn't feel totally brand new in that sense. It was quite nice to have, worked with people online and seen that there was a lot that could be achieved.
I think the result is very convincing. It shows how difficult the exercise is in terms of synchronization. It really is. It is a different exercise from just two people in a room to like a pianist and a singer. And it's already really hard when you haven't got an audience, when you just do it, by yourself. That's a very good, it's a very good practice, but it's a very difficult exercise. It's not a karaoke. And it could have been that very easily, but like what we're talking about is very complex music, and also some of them were half recitants, half aria, which makes things even more complicated.
The first coaching that I had with Florent was actually, it went better than I thought it was going to. I was a little bit nervous because obviously we were using Zoom. I wondered whether the Wi-Fi was going to cut out or if the quality of the sound wouldn't be very good, but it was actually pretty great. The only thing I did struggle with was actually, because Florent had previously sent me his recording of the piano part, and it was just actually keeping in time with the piano, because I know when I sing an aria, I'm always like a little bit flexible with the timings, and I like to change things around a bit, but here you kind of have to be very strict with yourself and stick to what is written, which is a bit different to what I usually do.
When Florent first sent me a general recording of what he kind of thought were my ideas, he did strategically place in artistic ideas of his own. And I remember when we did our first coaching and I sang it through with the recording kind of in the background on my end, he said he was very pleased that I could pick up on what he was desperately trying to convey just through a recording, where I couldn't see his body language, I couldn't see his face. All I could hear was him placing his fingers down on the piano keys.
It is a rather unnatural process doing it remotely, but what I was happy about was that it seemed perfectly possible to get really quite deep into the detail and get something out of it that didn't rely on a kind of sound basis.
When you're in a coaching, there are so many things that you can work on, whereas when you're on Zoom, when you're online, it's limited. So you have to focus on other things. So, you might not be able to work on dramatic intention in terms of the physicality of it, because you're working more on like the color. And so you're thinking about what you're thinking through that phrase and what your intention is, and maybe even smaller details like where you're putting a consonant.
I found that even though it was online, it was still really useful, and it was actually being in lockdown and having something like Clonter to do, like this project, it was like a breath of fresh air, because it was something else to think about and something to put your mind on instead of just the coronavirus.
One of the other wonderful things about this project was having that sort of accountability. of having to wake up every morning. You had a meeting at 10 o'clock, you were meeting with, with the team, and you felt like you were really a part of a project again. And I think that's something that a lot of musicians are missing at the moment, is like doing work with people. And although the coachings are just one-to-one, you feel like you're really still a part of something that's happening as a team.
The main big difference, I think, for a coach like me, if you're not actually in the same room as a singer, is that you are not yourself playing the piano. The piano accompaniment to their aria has been pre-recorded and they're joining in with it. Now, for a musician, when you're not actually able to give your own musical take on something yourself on the keyboard, that leaves out part of your expression. And it also means that the singer is not receiving all of your musical input.
Usually when you're in a room with the pianist or the coach and then the singer, we tend to bounce our energy off each other. We tend to build each other up with this sort of shared excitement and energy and making music. And so just to not be in the room and just be in your lounge room trying to generate that kind of energy just yourself has been something that it takes a different kind of stamina.
It's quite an event, in your day. You have to really set aside time because there's a lot of planning of where things are going, where the camera's going to be, what the angle is going to be, and things like that, which makes it difficult. But I think the actual recording can come out quite well to consider that it's just an iPad. They're not specifically made for operatic voices screaming down them, so it's quite nice to know that it still records relatively well, and that you can get something that even in a time like this you can then remember and reflect on.
You really go into the singer's mind in what would be helpful for them.
When there's big long pauses, even the way he breathes helps me to, just watching him, it made it easier for me to know when to come in. But I actually found the coachings really useful because it was pretty much just like a face-to-face coaching, and there was no problems with internet or anything. So yeah, it went quite well.
It's good that we've got ways to keep being creative, and the technology is amazing, and the fact that we can actually work and sort of collaborate, being in different parts of the world. I even gave coachings on last Wednesday at the Guildhall, where people were really all around the world in different time zones at once, which was absolutely amazing. And the fact that you could do that is brilliant. But I believe in live music.
There is something so different about having the music just around you in the acoustic, rather than having it in your ear and slightly like falling out of your ear every now and again. That is obviously a really big difference.
I used to sing while playing in my practice. I'm used to say the words, and I'm used to work on the text before playing in any case. So that sort of, drives my playing, if that makes sense. And if I've got an idea of what sort of tempo I want to do, I think that makes things easier. So you've got to be the singer and the conductor in one, if that makes sense. Because you can only trust your own musical instinct.
It's clearly not what was originally planned, and it's not what the workshops were meant to look like, but having something like that anyway during the lockdown has been amazing, because it is one thing, like one project from 2020 that has continued and has still had a lot of positives from it. to be honest, I think it was actually quite nice to just focus on like 3 arias and then focus on just one and really work on it in detail.
For the time that we had and for the few coachings and meetings that we had, and the fact that we've never met ever, I think the result is very convincing.
To work with singers and coaches that I didn't know continues to build my network of people, my network of colleagues. And since then, we've all connected through social media and we're all friends on social media, and I kind of can't wait to work with them again. You know, maybe in an opera in a year's time, we'll cross paths again. So that's been really cool.
Even though it's been online, it was so nice even to just meet other singers from different conservatoires, and obviously Win and Florent. It was just nice to make new contacts.
Clonter makes such a difference to young singers' lives due to the fact that, you know, I think we'll always be seen as children whilst at college. In that sense, it's a case of, you know, you're still a student, and so in that sense, you kind of feel that student-teacher relationship a lot of the time. When you go to something like Clonter, even online, there's a different kind of dynamic.